time has now come for us all to do more. From this evening, I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home.
The number of adults in the UK who are experiencing some level of depression has doubled since the start of the coronavirus pandemic.
Tonight, a worrying picture is emerging on the impact of the pandemic on our mental health.
It's ravaged the world with an estimated 2.9 million deaths and 134 million cases and counting. This has caused many countries to lock down their civilians in their own homes. We're going to explore the mass rise in mental health due to being locked down.
Yeah, luckily I have a reasonable network of friends. A lot of them aren't local anyway, so what we tend to do is set up Zoom conversations with them occasionally. Not that often, admittedly, because you don't have a lot to say sometimes. Nobody's been doing a great deal for the last year or so, but even so, I think it's good to have that support. And I've probably spoken to friends that I wouldn't have spoken to before as well. Friends that maybe only ever go to gigs with, for example. I've been calling them and having hour-long Zoom chats with them, and that's kind of enhanced our relationship as well in some ways. And just good to get different people's take on it. Everyone's going through the same issue, the same lockdown issues, but in different ways. And yeah, it's good for me to support them and for them to support me, really. But yeah, friends and family over Zoom chats are probably the best support I've been having. So have I been lonely during lockdown, during COVID? Okay, I've been lucky, as I've said previously. I've got family, but yeah, I've still had bouts of loneliness, still missed the family and the friends, and sometimes you get a little bit of cabin fever. So yeah, I have been lonely. I've tried to cope with that by maybe using the rules where you can go and go for a walk with a friend. So I've been trying to take advantage of that, and as much as possible trying to get out with the family in different environments. Yes, it has. I've got a wife and 2 kids, so at least I don't have the loneliness aspect of it. But I've definitely not seen my friends as much as I would have liked, and my family, even though my family don't live close. We usually see each other 2 or 3 times a year, so we've not managed to do that in the last year. So it definitely has affected my relationships with them, but what we've tried to do is use Skype and Zoom calls as much as possible. My wife also has family abroad, so we just end up doing that a lot more than usual, but it's definitely affected my relationships in that way. I do miss going to the pub and seeing my friends, I must admit. Yeah, so probably my coping strategies in the first lockdown and in this more recent one is to really go for regular exercise. That used to involve just going for runs, running in the local area for 30-40 minutes. But more recently, I've been wanting to get out of the house for longer, so I've decided to combine that with a walk. So I'd like to be out of the house for 2.5 hours, 3 hours, but I can't run for that length of time. So it's just a good way of doing it, to go for a run, go for a walk. More importantly, doing that in the countryside. Sometimes listening to podcasts, other times just listening to the nature, sounds of the birds and things like that, and that's really helped me. It's one of my coping strategies. In addition, meditation as well. That was something that I did do prior to lockdown, but it's probably something that I've tried to incorporate more into my daily routine as well, and that's definitely helped. Like many people in the first lockdown especially, I think a lot of people have done, purchased loads of different weird and wonderful things, or had weird projects. Just heard from somebody yesterday whose husband bought a van and was converting it into a camper van, and that was his lockdown project. Mine, I just saved up and purchased a Ducati Scrambler motorbike. So I've not ridden or had a bike for about 10 years, and I just thought it was just something that I really wanted to do, and I had a lot more time and a little bit more money. So yeah, that was my purchase in the first lockdown, and I've still got it now. What the advice I give to other people would be, especially if you're lonely and on your own, just speak to your friends and family as much as possible. You know, reach out to them and just have that social connection. You know, try to get out and exercise. Like I said earlier, in the countryside if you can, but also in town centres where there are people around at least. And I think that's really important. So social interaction is probably the main thing. You don't want to be on your own, watching the news all the time, you know, thinking about this COVID situation. You need to just use techniques to get your mind off it and to interact with other people.